Hi guys, today's going to be a quick video. As you might have noticed on the last video when we were doing the studio upgrade, we've moved the A77s from being in an elevated position pointing down to being on the flat desk level, and that then needs for us to recalibrate the room based on the new speaker positions. So we're going to look at that today. I'm also going to give you an update a bit later on in the video on the Intel debacle and where we're at with that. So we'll crack on. We're going to use a referencing microphone and software from a company called SoundID. They've not sponsored this. This is something I bought several years ago, and I use it every time we reconfigure the studio. What we're going to look at is 3 different ways of measuring to see if they impact on the reference output. As you will see, the SoundID recommendation is to hold the microphone in front of your body, but I kind of think then your body has an influence on what the microphone's receiving. So we did it that way. What I then also did was to reference the room with the microphone sat on top of a microphone stand, and that I believe gets a better picture of the room. And then I tried to do it with me sat in the listening position, which isn't easy because some of the microphone positioning is behind your head and it's difficult to get the location. So what you get in the box with SoundID reference is a dedicated reference microphone. These microphones are meant to be totally flat. However, all microphones have some sort of bumps and lumps in their frequency response. So what SoundID reference do is they give each microphone, I don't know if you can see that, a unique reference number. And they have calibrated this microphone back at the factory, and as you will see later, we will need to put that ID reference in so that this microphone doesn't colour the results. So we need to plug this in, so I'll just get all that set up and we'll see where we go from there. So let's get started. So for our purpose, we're just looking at a stereo response. We need to turn the phantom powering on. So we're on RME9. Shall do that. Your input and output is routed to the same device or uses the same clock source. So I have got this microphone. This has been routed into RME9. The output for the speakers is also going through the RME. And as you can see, the microphone's on and we can't hear anything through the speakers. We're using another interface and we've got that. We could pick any of the inputs on my setup, but as we've just seen, we're coming in USB 9, and as you can see, the signal is being detected. This is where we put in this unique code. So again, it's this code here. So as you can see, they've calibrated this microphone and it's got a bit of a high lift around 10k. So when we do the measuring, it will take that into account. So now we've got to test that we've got the speakers on the right channel.
Left speaker, right speaker.
Good.
Please adjust the volume of your output device. My voice should sound at normal conversation volume.
So I've just adjusted
Left speaker.
Yeah,
Right speaker.
Just put it down a little bit. There are, I think, 3 ways of doing this. The recommendation is for you to hold the microphone in front of you, so kind of like this, to make the measurement. But I kind of think that your body is then working as an absorber. So is the microphone getting the true reading? but we'll do it that way. We can also do it where we'll sit the microphone on top of a stand and we'll step out of the way. And then the third time I'm going to try it is actually in the chair. So then me and the chair are in its position, or in the position that we would be in if we were mixing. We have to make sure that the microphone is at ear height. And then we have to make sure the triangle between the speakers and the listening position is correct. So I'll set the camera up so you can see where we position the microphone for the referencing. There are something in the region of 40 measurements which take about 20 minutes. Of course, I won't make you suffer through all that. What is a good recommendation is to put some earplugs in. Not that it's actually loud or dangerous to your hearing, but when you are hearing an audio sweep 40 times, it gets a bit tedious. And if I'm going to be doing 3 lots of measurements, that's 120 times. So I'll be wearing those. Okay. Now I think I'm going to try that again because I think my microphone position is probably a bit too high. So, and it is important that we get the positioning correct for where I will be sat. So I'm going to try that again.
Stay where you are. Measurements in progress. Left speaker done. Stay where you are. Measurements in progress. Right speaker done.
Could maybe do with the listening spot a bit further back. So we'll try that again. That's better. So now, when we start, it will start pinging left and right to position the microphone. So as you can see on the screen, we have a bit of a bump at about 200 Hertz and a bit of a dip at about 900 and a bit of a bump at 1.5. Now I'm going to show you the second way that we can do the measurement. I've already done this, so I will just show you how I set this up and what I actually did. For the second test, I did it on a stand, and basically I set the position of the microphone in accordance with the positioning on the software, Then I went and stood over in this corner so that my body wasn't anywhere close to the microphone, and we ran through the 40 reference points, and actually that created a slightly different graph to the one that we've just done. Now what I'm going to try and do now is to do that exercise while sat in the chair, but it's not easy because some of the microphone positioning is actually behind the chair, so I might have to bugger about a bit, but we'll see how we go. So we'll load the software up from the beginning again. I won't go through all this, we'll skip all this on the video.
Left speaker, right speaker.
Okay. So this is kind of my listening spot. Should just be behind my head actually, but here we go. Okay. Right, so what we can do now is we'll compare all three results. So there are three profiles. There's the mic profile, which is the Adams second measurement. There is the handheld profile, and there is the sat down profile. So let's just toggle between the three different profiles, and we can see the subtle variations between the three of them. So the first thing I notice is that the bottom end roll off on the sat down calibration is far greater than on the other two. Also, if you notice, the phase difference between the left and right is definitely more pronounced both at the top and the bottom on the sat down profile. It looks like the phase correlation is far better on the mic stand profile, suggesting that, as suspected, my body was negatively affecting the referencing. Although all three patterns are similar in shape, which is what you'd expect, the mic stand profile is shallower. In that, I mean, the boosts and the cuts are not as great. It's closer to the flat response. On all the profiles, there is obviously a bit of a bump between the 100 Hz and 300 Hz, and we also have a cut at around the 900 Hz, and both of those are maximum of 6 dB. I think of all the three, I'm far happier with the mic stand reference, so I think we're going to use that one. Now, what the software does is it basically applies an EQ. So for all the cuts and boosts on the reference, the EQ will actually apply the equal and opposite amount of gain or cut to try and get the flattest response time possible. So some may argue that the flat response is not the most ideal profile to have. But from my point of view, I would prefer to mix, knowing that what I was listening to was as neutral as possible and that the room was not affecting my decision making. Of course, if you've got a 6 dB gain at, say, 100 Hz, and you then think, oh, we need a bit more in the bottom end and apply another 2 or 3 dB, in reality, you're adding 9 dB to a flat signal. Of course, it's difficult to let you hear the difference because this is applied to the master outputs of the RME to my speakers, so I can't capture directly on the computer the sound difference from the applied EQ. What I am going to try though is use the reference mic placed at the listening position and play a track and cut the EQ in and out, and we'll see if you can hear the difference. So even though you're only going to really hear this in mono, as I'm recording it just through one microphone, you can definitely tell that there is a boxiness that disappears. That will be the 200 to 400 hertz range. And that the sound is a lot brighter, even though there is a shelf at 9K. But more importantly, there's a boost at 1K and a 2.5K. Okay, I'm not sure whether you would hear that difference over YouTube, but we'll see. So, as promised, I'll give you an update on this Intel debacle. As you may know from the previous video, I'd got some issues with regards to the Thunderbolt 2 connectivity to Thunderbolt 4. However, what became more worrying was the issue that Intel was having with failures of the 13th and 14th gen chips, of which we just bought one. So as you can see on our video, we got lots of comments, which I'm very grateful for, and I have tried to reply to all of them. The majority talking about the problem of the i9 being cooked. And having researched this a little bit more, we were hoping that because we weren't overclocking the chip, that might help. But then other people were pointing out that the chips are failing on network cards and they don't overclock on network cards. It turns out that the actual fault, the cause of these failures, is an overvoltage. And overclocking is one thing that can cause an overvoltage, but overvoltages can occur for other reasons. So we were kind of on tenterhooks as to whether or not we're going to end up with a failed chip on our hands. Anyhow, it appears that in the last couple of days, Intel have finally established what they think the issue is, and it's to do with some microcode that puts a request to the motherboard for a voltage that is really higher than what the chip needs. So this Thomas Hannaford, which is an employee of Intel, are saying that they're hoping to provide a patch that will prevent the chip from requesting this voltage overload. The thing is that this patch isn't going to go directly to us as the chip users. It's going to have to go to the motherboard manufacturers, who are then going to have to build it into a BIOS patch, and then you're going to have to download that BIOS and update your BIOS. So although the Intel is saying that this patch will be available mid-August, I suspect that it's going to take a few weeks for the motherboard manufacturers to build that into a BIOS update. So I think we're looking at the end of August. So we are still at risk, but what we did do is a bit of a test, and if I just run Pro Tools, so as you can see in Pro Tools there is a monitor, and this is the 32 threads of the i9, and this is just a bit of work in progress for the next album. As you can see, there's quite a lot of tracks on this. Got a bit of processing going on, not a huge amount. So we wanted to see whether this would overload or put pressure on the chip. So get played. as you can see, we're not even hitting 10% on the chip usage. So I'm hopeful that Pro Tools at least won't cook the chip. What I don't know is how much work DaVinci Resolve, which is what I edit the videos on, will have, and we just need to look into that. So we'll keep you up to speed with how we do. Any changes we'll report in the next video. If in the meantime you'd like to hit that like and subscribe button, it really does help the channel out, as does any comments, as we saw in the last video. Also, don't forget, go check out our music videos on our alternate channel, and maybe never. I'll leave a link in the description below. Go and listen to our music. We're on all the playlists on Spotify and Amazon and Apple Music. And if you want to help support us, please visit our Bandcamp channel, and there you can purchase our latest EP. We'll see you on the next one.